last panel of the day. So that means I have an hour to pick on people who are not asking questions, who I think actually have a question in their brain. And those of you who know me know I am not shy. So I will pick on people. So this is our opportunity to tap into 4 really good brains. And they have a different perspective on our industry. They have different jobs than the brokers in the room have, and then most of the vendors in the room. So let's learn what we can from them. So on my right is Bryan Bedford from Peel Mutual, and he is manager of strategy. Did I get that right?
Close enough.
Strategic what?
Projects.
Projects. Darn it, I knew I was going to get it. Then beside him is Simon Rivard from Aviva, and he is VP of Digital and Innovation. Then it's Caroline Schweppe from Applied Systems. She's VP of Insurance Services, and so she's going to tell what she does. And then at the far end is Marion Redpath, Project Manager at Heartland Mutual Insurance Company. It used to be known as North Waterloo and Oxford, so it's a merger. So, first we're going to start off by having them tell a little bit about what they do. And, right, do you want to just start with that, or can I don't want to give you the meat right away, so we'll start at that and then we'll go on to the meat. Okay. So Bryan, why don't we start with you?
Sure. So I'm Bryan Bedford from Peel Mutual. I've been in the insurance world for, more than 10 years now, probably about 12 years. Mostly on the IT and project side, so doing broker-facing technology, EDI download, eDocs, portals, all those wonderful things. So any questions along those lines, certainly I will try to answer. Peel Mutual is a smaller Ontario farm mutual, so we aren't large, so we get to wear a lot of different hats. So my title is Manager of Strategic Projects, but again, it's a lot of broker-facing technology projects, interfacing with the vendors, interfacing with the brokers, talking strategy with our board of directors. So that's probably enough for now.
Okay, Simon.
My name is Simon Rivard. I've joined Aviva about 2 years ago, so I'm fairly new to Aviva. I've been asked to join you for this panel. I'm not sure if it's part of an initiation or something, but I'm sure we'll have fun. So my role at Aviva as VP Digital and Innovation is really how can we embrace digital. It's our first strategic pillar at Aviva. It's digital first. It's a global statement that we have, and I'm also part of the international digital board at Aviva. So frequently in London, and I have a chance to oversee what's going on in the other markets, like what's going on in UK, France, Asia, and also other countries. So happy to take any question into this.
Caroline?
Hi, I'm Caroline Schweppe. I'm Vice President of Insurer Solutions with Applied Systems, and I know a lot of you are probably saying, what's a BMS doing at a carrier discussion?
That's right.
And Wendy asked me the same question yesterday when we were prepping for this discussion, but really where I play in the industry is on the whole area of connectivity between insurance companies and brokers and a variety of vendors who are really using our services to distribute information. So very interesting part of the ecosystem, and I speak a lot about the ecosystem. I always like to say that in my role I'm Switzerland, so everybody's my friend, including our competitors. So I'm happy to have any questions thrown at me about what's going on in that space at the moment.
And Marion.
I'm Marion Redpath. I am project manager at Heartland Farm Mutual. I've been with the company almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years this summer. I have a varied past of experience in IT primarily. Started off in insurance, did a stint in many different industries, consulting and healthcare, and it ended up falling back into insurance about 5 years ago, always in the P&C world, and working with farm mutuals in the last 5 years. I've been involved in a lot of projects with Heartland and in my previous workplaces, and I've been involved in a lot of broker-facing projects, and happy to be here.
Excellent. So, pinky swear with everybody in this room that if these guys let something slip that we're not supposed to know, it stays in these 4 walls. Are we all agree? Yes. Okay. So you guys are safe if anything comes out that shouldn't come out. So the first question is, what is going on in each of your organizations, or what is soon going to be going on in each of your organizations that really excites you? Why are we laughing over here? Okay, so Marion, why don't you go first?
Sure. So as Wendy mentioned, we have recently undergone a merger. So effective January 1st, we became Heartland Farm Mutual. Prior to that, we were North Waterloo and Oxford Farm Mutual. Quite an interesting mix in terms of a 10-to-1 ratio for the two organizations. But one of the big projects that I've been involved
what
in.
does that mean, a 10-to-1 ratio?
So $100 million mutual versus a $10 million mutual.
Oh, I get that.
For a 10-to-1. We've been involved in product harmonization. We've actually implemented the auto because auto is easy. It's fairly regulated. However, the most challenging thing that we're involved in right now is non-auto product harmonization. And that, I'm sure some of the people, including Tina probably in the room here, wouldn't say that it's maybe exciting, but I do see it as an opportunity for the organization, because what we've been able to do is we've been able to take a look at the products of both of the organizations, and hopefully at the end of it we're going to end up with the best of both, or if in some cases coming up with new products for Heartland as a result of that. Now, what does that mean on the IT side of things? Of course, it means a lot of work of mapping coverages from one system to the other and bringing that information over, conversion, all of that. So that's one of the big things that we're involved in right now.
I'm kind of with Tina. Doesn't sound overly exciting, but it sounds very necessary and probably a good end product for the consumer. Bryan.
So we're similar. It's probably not overly exciting yet, but the exciting part is what's going to come afterwards. So we have board approval to spend, for us, a lot of money. So we have a 7-figure budget, being told not to go to 8, which I guess is a pretty big window, so it's pretty good. And that's to revamp all of our technology. So it's our internal technology, our broker-facing technology, everything that we do. So we're taking a look at each piece of the puzzle there and where we can improve. Certainly being a farm mutual, we're not going to be leading the pack when it comes to digital and technology, but we want to be close enough behind that we can see what's working and jump on those things that are working and spend our money that way. So the next year is going to be doing a lot of projects along those lines, and then the next piece after that is what we can do once we have that newer technology in place. So I guess you could term it a legacy replacement, which is not exciting, but the end goal is exciting. And that will involve product, being able to add products quickly, make product changes, pricing, all those things that come with the new technology.
Simon.
All right, I'll try to not repeat myself for those that attend the panel an hour ago on Crystal Ball. So a couple of things at Aviva. This Friday we are launching Guidewire policy and billing in the test mode, in the pilot mode. So it's not ready yet for a broker, but I mean it's the sum of more than a year of work for us. So it's something big. I'm always saying to my IT folks that we are about to launch our next legacy system. So it needs to be done the right way. So they don't like that usually. I don't know. So, but
that's
it's
sensitive with brokers too, I have to say.
Yeah, but but we know right now that the way that we can connect with you guys is everything but perfect. So I think with the next generation, we're spending a lot of time to make sure that it would be easy to connect and really decouple the interface with the customer and the broker. So something I think quite interesting. We also have a new team in place called Customer and Digital. I'm part of that team, led by Tom Reed. Used to lead the broker business in Western Canada. I mean, we do have an innovation roadmap. So we're trying to come up with something innovative every 2 months in the market. We've launched something last week, Plan and Protect. If you didn't look at that app yet, I invite you to take a look. It's how we can leverage peril data and provide some advice to the customer, valuable advice. And it's just a tiny example. There's much more to come in that front. One thing that I'm really proud of is we've done our first hackathon 2 weeks ago Hackathon is basically, we're leveraging the 3,000 employees that we have, brain. And we had more than 150 ideas of innovation that have been submitted. And we've had people 24-hour, for a window of 24 hours, we have developer, marketing folks, business, underwriter working together, and they've built like 10 products and 10 solutions that some are client-facing. So you'll probably, I cannot reveal anything yet, but it's something that I know, so I can talk about this. But anyway, so there's a lot of innovation, and part of my mandate was trying to stimulate the adoption of digital and innovation and starting to pay out. So I think it's paving a bright future for on our side.
And last, but certainly not least, Caroline.
Don't you love that? So what I'm seeing, and I want to kind of just preface this, what I'm seeing in the insurance industry right now is a very strong desire to change. I've never seen so many exciting things, and the discussion that you're having about the hackathon really goes to that. And we are really touching a lot of the change that's going on in the industry as a whole. Probably the most exciting change that I'm involved with right now is the development of real-time policy change. And again, you know, there were comments made yesterday when we were prepping for this meeting about, do you think there's hope for us yet? And there actually is. And what has driven this initiative has been a truly powerful sense of collaboration within a number of organizations, some of whom are actually in the room. The decision for the community, let's talk about the ecosystem again, to develop this initiative was driven primarily by a broker. A very large, very powerful broker that became a client of Applied some years ago, and effectively joined forces with two of their major insurance companies who they did business with, and brought them and us into a room and basically put a gun to our heads and said, it's time for us to do this. And we were very anxious to support that, because we do believe that this is one of the most powerful developments in the industry today. Real time, I mean, who would have thought it would take us this long to get to real time? But it has, because it's just, we need to collaborate. And the additional component of this was the need to have what I always call, because I'm so technological, the bit in the middle. The catcher's mitt to take the data from the BMS to the carrier. So Towers Watson Bravado were part of that as well, and it is phenomenal. So each of the carriers involved are currently in test, very close to release. They're choosing to go different routes with how they're doing this. And I really think that this is so unbelievably exciting.
I would think that that would spur some questions. No? Really? So, so not surprised.
Who are the carriers, can you announce?
I can, and they'll
So,
probably...
sorry, just the question for recording is, who are the carriers?
So the two carriers in question are SGI and Wawanesa, both of whom have quite significant technology implementation plans in place today. And this is another part of their development. So this is what we're seeing. It's this technology innovation that's taking place right through the industry. And we were just really happy to be part of this. It was just fabulous.
Any other questions? No? So my next question is, what initiative do you think our industry needs that keeps getting moved down the priority list? Okay, Bryan, go.
Sure, I'll go first. I think it's actually a good follow-on to what Caroline was just talking about. That the one that sort of piqued my interest when I first started in insurance was, and I know it's close to your heart too, Wendy, was before Orbit started, sort of the creation of Orbit was a trip down to Chicago for a, I don't remember what the session was, it was a bus trip. But some of the technology that was shown at that time was from Applied in the US, and it was real-time quoting. So from the broker system Applied, they could go out to multiple companies, get a quote back into the broker system, and then click which one they wanted to go with and continue from that point.
And they could click issue policy.
Yes. So we saw that. I was with a different carrier at the time, and we saw that and thought that was fantastic, but still not in Canada, not to put you on the spot. And there's multiple reasons for that, and it's carrier issues, it's broker vendor issues. It perhaps could be brokers not pushing for those things to their vendors. There's all sorts of issues behind that, but I think that is one initiative that sort of keeps getting pushed down. And if we can get to that real-time quoting, which it sounds like we're getting there, it drives other initiatives like real-time policy change, because you need the quoting or the rating interface. So.
Questions, comments on that? Caroline, did you want to respond to that?
No.
Do not say no.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, I mean, I'll just throw some thoughts out on this. I think one of the biggest issues that we have has been this whole concept of legacy systems. And there's lots of things that we would all love to be able to do, but to actually unhinge the legacy systems to support all of these great ideas has just been almost impossible. And again, because of what's going on with Guidewire, 19 of the personal lines carriers in Canada will be implementing Guidewire within the next 5 years. It's anticipated that there's $1 billion in spend going into that acquisition of that service. And again, to reiterate the importance of collaboration, there are a number of insurance companies participating in a collaborative series of workshops, of which we're participating as BMS vendors together with is it Vertifor or Keel, and the CSSI group. CSIO is at the table, and what we're trying to do is to really help to level the playing field with respect to what those policy systems might look like. And for the insurers and the broker management systems to be able to respond to the needs of the broker community, which is simplification of the connectivity and the data gathering component to facilitate real-time quoting, real-time upload and download, and all of those real-time initiatives that we should have probably had a long time ago, but it's a very, very difficult and very expensive opportunity or initiative to remove all that and rebuild. And I think it's going to be a long time before we actually truly get there, but I really believe it's the most exciting time in the industry right now. The appetite is there to collaborate, the money is being spent on the technology is available to be able to support it, and it's very strongly desired.
So we have 19 carriers investing. So what does that do for the smaller, more regional type carriers? Like, we have, a bookend at this table. So how does it, on a broker viewpoint, we want one workflow for all of our markets. So how can that happen with Guidewire? Is that question for you? Sure, whoever.
There are some other vendors of policy management systems. I think what we'll see is that with that volume of market share driving some standardization, I would anticipate that the standardization would spread right through the community. Would you agree with that?
Well, absolutely. I mean, today on our side, we're dealing with the range of 70, 75 different BMSs. Of course, there are like the big four, but there's a couple more. And we need to have somewhat of a standard to communicate with everyone, but everyone have a different standard. Even with, with CISIO, we've tried in the past to standardize everything. It was not applied fully.
That's right.
All across the board. So I think it's a major, major challenge that we have. Another one I would like to share is tied up with regulations. There are some major change coming up at the fiscal level. One of the things that we are pushing really hard, fiscal and the Ontario government right now, is electronic documents. Like, it's not legal today to issue an electronic pink slip. It needs to be on paper with the precise Pantone color. I'm going to cross my finger and hope that by the end of this year, this issue will be resolved. But our team has been working with the government probably the last 3-4 years, trying to change that thing. So I think, it's coming back after 7 years in the insurance business, I really thought it would have been addressed. So it's a tiny thing, but I mean, how can we interact and be up to date as an industry when we have some regulation that are restricting us to interact the way we should with customer and the way that customer want. So, and it's only one battle, there's a few more.
And Marion, how would you respond to that? And not the
Actually-
pink card thing, but the,
Well, I could respond a little bit to the pink card thing as well, because CZO and ePost are really lobbying the government to try to make some changes there. But the one initiative that I wanted to speak about that I think keeps getting put down the list is something that's available right now, and I don't think it's being utilized. So I'm going to go with something very simple, and that's single sign-on. My understanding is that there's single sign-on technology available. Some of you may correct me, but I understand that you do have that ability through TAM and through Bravada. And I think Ken Metcalf was even doing some things with CGI for that. And this is just one area that I think is just so simple. And if we're looking at adoption, Wendy, you talked about if we build it, they will come. And why aren't the people using this? I don't know how many of these meetings I've been at where you've said, why are they not using it? Well, I think a big part of the reason that people don't use things is because it's difficult. And it's difficult to remember the passwords for all of your different markets and your logins and what format do I use here or what format do I use there. Single sign-on gets rid of all of that. And so I see that as an important initiative. There's a couple other reasons that I see that single sign-on should be used, and that's selfishly on our side, on the carrier side, it causes labor intense work that's kind of busy work, if you want to call it that, on our help desks. So we have people responding to people not able to get logged in because they can't remember what password to use and resetting passwords and those types of things. So on our side, it would help out. And then most importantly is that whole security and the privacy risk. So we have producers that leave one brokerage and they go to another brokerage and they're not attached to that market, but they still have an ID that is open on that market. And so by having this all controlled under one single sign-on, then we're able to shut it down. That person leaves the organization. They have no ability to get into all of the portals and all of the support websites and all of the markets that they had. And it's all one-stop shopping. So that's really kind of off my soapbox now.
yeah. So throw that same question out to attendees. So, you know, what is the one thing that you sit at your desks, you sit in front of your customers, that our industry needs, and it keeps getting pushed down and you keep asking yourself why? Scott, what's it for you?
The insurance companies do not seem to recognize or use the standards, first line standards of data. So the download comes in and our information is in the history, but it doesn't override it. They purposely do that.
So it's quality of the download, quality of the data in download.
Yeah.
So it keeps...
The data fields in the back.
Yeah.
Background. Yeah. Yeah.
So
I've spoken to my companies and they just, no, we don't do that.
So I know Beth spoke to that in the real-time equals clean download next door.
Yeah.
And what she shared there is we did have a clean download working group, and carriers didn't know in a lot of cases that the data that they were sending was overwriting data in broker systems. So I think, is Beth in here? I think she said that there were 73 problems. Amanda, I think you were on that working group. 73 items identified, and 58% of them were fixed. So I don't know if you guys want to respond to that at all about.
Well, I think it's not a carrier, just a carrier problem. It's an industry problem. I highlighted earlier, but it's a going through the guide wire. We're asking ourselves what should be the standard. We want to be compliant with all the BNSs, with every players, and make the life of everyone as easy as possible. But I don't think we. So there is CZO and thinking it was leading in the right direction, but some decided to put their own flavor, and we started to have
we don't have
a standard is not fully standard, and it's complex for us. I think, you know, I'm a bit like Caroline. I think the arrival of and the adoption, the large adoptions of Guidewire should lead us to have true industry standard in the next 5 years, and hopefully we'll sleep better.
Yeah. So, Bryan or Marion, want to comment or no?
It's not much of a comment, but I was going to say that, I mean, we have a smaller volume, obviously, than Aviva does, but since I've been at Peel Mutual, which is 3 years, we haven't had a single broker contact us and tell us. So kudos, we have our policy system vendor in the room, so thank you for that, because they handle that for us. But
so what
certainly
brokers,
if we're told, we would fix it.
So what brokers have told? Just a second. So, and you guys have told, and have your download issues been corrected?
Where they can.
Where they can. Okay. Clinton, you can typically be quite loud, so go for it.
Thank you.
It is a compliment, yeah.
So I guess the question is to, Caroline up there. So as a new commercial lines carrier in Canada, in the U.S., we deal with hundreds of different broker systems to start. Where we believe in standards, we believe moving forward. Coming up here, we want to have the same strategy with broker management systems on commercial lines. How do I make the business case? Because I've been approached by Aviva to participate in that data integration project when the broker management systems, it doesn't seem that they have commercial lines on their focus right now.
I think that's a very good question. And I'm trying to consider what's the best approach to answer it without dropping us all in it. I think really what the real issue here is what is the industry expectation and what the appetite is. Commercial lines is one of my hot buttons actually, Clinton. I love the idea of enabling automation of commercial lines. And everywhere you go, people are talking about it, and yet there are so many other more pressing initiatives that are required simply to function, for the industry as a whole to function. So I don't know that I have any immediate answer to that, other than to say we certainly as an organization see that as a huge opportunity, not just for us, but also for the industry as a whole. And I think it would make the life of a broker so much better to standardize that processing of commercial lines business in the same way as we see so much automation on the personal lines. Unlike you, I left the industry for 8 years and I came back and it was still the same and I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. We're having the same conversation that we were having when I left.
So, and you know what, this is what's frustrating is orbit. So what does it take? What will it take to change it? I feel like I'm on a soapbox, but damn it, I'm going to stay on it. Like, we have spent time developing best practice workflows. We built business cases. We vetted it. We sent them to carriers. We sent them to vendors. And stuff is still sitting on a shelf today. So what does it take to move this industry? I don't know the answer. I only have the question. What does it take? Can we who can answer?
I think there's a huge initiative underway right now.
Is this Guidewire that we're talking
This
about?
Guidewire, and Aviva, for example, is taking quite a significant leadership role. It's policy management systems.
Policy management systems. So it's replacing legacy.
Thank you, Clinton, for that clarification. You're absolutely right. It's migrating to modern technology and facilitating that, collaboration and some significant leadership on these initiatives that will affect us all, and it is very powerful.
So, anybody want to ask a question here? Sorry, I feel like I'm hogging the mic. Oh, I was waiting for you, Rick.
Well, I guess it's the same bugaboo I have at every one of these meetings, and I don't hold out any hope that before the insurance companies start to install Guidewire for their policy management systems that we'll see it. But the thing that has to keep being hammered home every single time is we need real-time policy change start and in our BMS, period. It's 65% to 70% of our transactions that create almost zero revenue. And maybe if you spend a little less money setting up direct operations and put that money into doing this, you get the same amount of volume because we'd have more time to sell as opposed to entering multiple portals.
But not, not all the carriers have direct arms.
No.
So, yeah. So, did you have a question?
Well, you asked.
Okay.
The question you asked was, what
What's it gonna take?
What keeps getting
Oh,
pushed down?
yeah, policy change.
And that keeps getting pushed down.
Okay, you're absolutely right. Did you have your hand up?
I did. So I've got a really simple question. And we were talking about single sign-ons, and we're a single sign-on through Rivard. And if an employee leaves, we can't just flip the switch, and all those accesses are denied because they still have individual lock-ons with Economical, Aviva, the whole case. But the question is password management. What is it with companies that insist that we must, within 30 to 90 days, continue to change our passwords when other companies don't? So if we're talking about, clarity and keeping things simple in a single sign-on environment, half the time you gotta remember what your old password is to get your new password. And then you gotta remember to go back to your single sign-on portal to change it there. So even just one simple password that doesn't expire would be very helpful. Where would you guys stand on that? Because I know there's a couple carriers up there who require we change our passwords constantly.
I can probably answer that one. A big part of the problem is cybersecurity, and a lot of the companies are under pressure. I know our board is very hypersensitive to this, and we've undergone cybersecurity audits, and this is something that's going to happen on a regular basis, and our board is getting reports on this. And from a best practice point of view, that's where it's coming from for the resetting of the passwords. Because the cybersecurity guys, they're not going to accept that a password never changes.
Is Ken Metcalf in the room?
Nodding away down there.
Oh, okay. I think, do you have something to share with us on single sign-on?
All I can do is tell you what we have been.
Well, just come and meet me, Parker, Ken.
Well, I got a lot of voice. When we put in our portal a number of years ago, when we were trying to figure out what to do, one of the biggest complaints we got from the brokers was, oh yeah, yet another ID and password to remember for safeties. So we are outsourced with CGI. We use the leverage of that in this discussion. We asked two questions. One, can we use Rapid Web to verify access to our website? They said yes. I said, two, will you make that available to anyone who wants to use it? So we didn't want to be the only ones. And they said yes. So to this day, if you are a broker to us and you require access to our portal, both your EMS has its own ID and password, users have their own ID and passwords, or Rapid Web. And it's all managed in one place once. We work with Rapid Web directly to say, okay, this brokerage, these are the ones to them. We say they can access our system. We manage that from our side. You manage your staff from your side as a brokerage. It's done once. You have to do it if you want to get our plus or yours, whatever your auto. You can add anything else in. It's all there now, done once. It's not a federated ID. It's not a panacea, but it can collapse things down very, very nicely. Something you have to manage anyway, because you want to, because you're paying as a principal, you're paying out the order those NPR. When someone leaves, you want to make sure they don't want to work somewhere else and you pay for those NPR orders. That's common sense. So you need to manage it. So why not leverage that? And CGI has extended that. We use it for our portal, and if you want to contact them, you could work your operations out, but that can happen. And that will eliminate a lot of that. It's standardized. That's what we've been doing for several years.
Most broker managers doesn't connect to CGI,
Yeah,
it's all there.
it's all there, and it's for profit for those who want to use that. It works.
as I walk, what we did in our brokerage is our IT guy handled everybody's user ID and passwords. So our staff didn't even know there were user ID and passwords for portals. They were set up and they used the butterfly, real-time button, whatever you want to call it. And so when they left, they didn't have the user ID or password to take with them because it was not within their knowledge base. So there are, I guess, some other options too. We maybe, kind of think differently about how we handle some of these things to make it a little bit easier and protect. Like, this is really important data. It affects our brokerage, but it also affects our business partners. Seriously impacts them. I almost hate to ask this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So, Bryan, what process do you believe causes the most? And my word friction means speed bumps or opportunity to make it smoother in the interaction between you as a carrier and your brokers. So what is that point of friction that we have to try and get out of our system?
So this is very specific to Peel Mutual.
Okay.
As opposed to industry-wide. It might be industry-wide too, but we recently did a survey of our brokers, and that was pretty much one of the questions we asked. It wasn't worded quite that way. We worded it a little nicer than friction, but and it was the answer that came back was the turnaround time or the speed on our commercial quoting side. So we are very manual on the commercial side, and we had a lot of feedback saying that the time we were taking was too long. So the answer we were getting back might have been a good answer or a good price or a good package, but it was 3 days too late. I've already sold it, it's out the door, I'm on to the next one, or I'm on 2 down the road. And so that was taken on us, and it's gone back to the underwriting team to try to change some of the processes. Maybe they don't need as much detail as they think they need to get the price, to get to the answer. So that's a very individual answer.
You're nodding. Do you want to answer that?
Sure.
I mean, one of the things that, we're working on this Guidewire thing, and it's not a 6 months project. In fact, it's a 3 to 5 year project. It's a massive project. We have over 250 people working on this for the last year, and we'll be working on this for the next few years on this. So it's massive. So the question we're getting from our brokers partners is, okay, but how can you ease our life? Your current portal is not that great. We're the first to recognize it. So one of the things we've done with a couple of brokers is to start to delegate underwriting power through training. So we are increasing their level of authority with the proper training, and we're doing the auditing. The impact for them is to have, for those that have done through this pilot so far, is, well, they have someone on the floor that can answer and take the decision on our behalf. And we trust them because we've trained them the same way we are training our people. So I think, we're working really hard trying to find solution in what's in between now and Guidewire, trying to ease the life of our partner for the following X months needed to be there.
And Caroline, you interact with a lot of different carriers. So are you seeing anything different than what these fellows are saying?
No, absolutely. But what I am seeing is, again, very big uptake in initiatives where, let's call them ease of doing business initiatives. So I would say all the leading carriers have had a significant amount of work that they've undertaken with their broker community to understand the workflow. And I've sat in rooms with technology people and insurance companies, and they blatantly admitted they didn't know what went on in a broker's office. So these are the teams that we're working with who have recognized that this is where the hiccup is, and I'm happy to say recognize it, understand it, and are looking for ways to improve that process. But again, I get back to how long did it take us to get to that conversation, right? So it gets right back to really solid communication, understanding of what all the different roles and jobs and responsibilities in the industry are, and acknowledge our weaknesses from time to time. I think it's okay to just say, look, we just didn't do that right, but let's figure out how we can do it right in the future. And I'm seeing tons of these. We've been involved with almost all the top 10 carriers on some aspect of easing the friction between brokers and carriers. Very interesting time.
Any questions? Are you guys like waiting for wine? Or what's going on?
Should have just brought the wine in here.
Wow. You know what, last year, we could not, I was going to say shut you up, but that would have been a really rude way to say it. But you know what, we hardly asked any of our questions last year. Our audience, and Rick in particular, asked a lot of questions. So I'm going to just keep going with my questions, sorry about that. But we seem to have a mentality in my broker days that one tool fits all. That we need one tool to do everything, from start to finish in our interactions with our customers, to have the policy issued and the whole kit and caboodle. How do you think about that? Is that the right mentality? Do we need to think differently and think that we have to have lots of different tools connected in some way to do the full service for our customers and our business partners? Marion, you're smiling.
Sure, I think I can probably respond to that. I don't think it's on the question
It
list
is,
here, but
it's my own
yeah,
question.
that's all right.
Yeah.
So I think really anyone that sat in the room next door earlier for the commercial discussion, I think that really came to light there, that one size doesn't fit all. And it's really a matter of understanding your target market, because one tool is going to work with one client where it may not work with another. So for example, I like the expression, people do business with people. And I really think that if we look at the broker distribution channel, that phrase suits that, people do business with people. Because if they didn't want to do business with people, they'd be online and they'd do the whole thing online. So they do want that people element, but how do they want to interact with you depends on, do they want to talk to you on the phone? Do they want to walk into your office? Or do they want to use chat technology? And so it's really not a one size fits all. It's finding that balance and giving options to your producers and your brokers so that they can use different tools based on the situation.
Right?
No, I agree. It can't be one solution fits all, or then we become a Bel Air or something, that we have one system and you interface with it. So, I mean, independent brokers have their own systems. Of course, it's easier to develop with one system, but that's not the way it is. So it introduces more complexity and more time and more money to make changes. But that's the reality we're in, and I think brokers will see that too. If brokers start pushing out portals for their customers to use, you're going to have to support iPhones, you're going to start picking and choosing which things you're developing to if your solution doesn't handle them. And that's a situation that carriers have been in for quite some time. So it's not one size fits all for sure.
And what do you guys think? Brokers in the room?
Just a comment there, brokers have been dealing with multiple systems for as long as there have been company systems. Every single one is different. No two are the same. No two are even remarkably the same. So.
I was just speaking to the development and the cost and incurring that was, but I do agree, you have been.
On the customer involvement in the transaction of servicing their own policies, I think it's a new reality that we need to bring the customer in on that transaction to maybe look up simple things like a payment plan, a deductible, a policy number, a liability slip if you get stopped by the police, because really customers have evolved so that they can provide themselves with that assistance themselves without involving the broker. And with that, we're able to then push our top line a little bit better, get more volume on the books without having to servicing calls that come in for very simple transactions. So definitely, I think the customer wants to be part of that process through a customer-assisted portal, if that's possible.
And brokers in the room, are you thinking, or are you actually buying or investing in other technology to augment your BMS? So that's kind of where my question was too, is, you want to talk to this? Is one tool enough? Is your BMS enough? Is that a realistic expectation? Or where do we go with it?
Well, I think most of us know, I alluded earlier to lipstick on a pig. Our one system doesn't do everything, and they don't all play well together. And we need to work on getting better solutions at cheaper prices to, I call it API.
Yeah, it's just...
API integration, so we can actually do it, and it's more seamless. I have all these relationships, I have all these passwords, and it's a nightmare right now, and I know we can do it better. One of the things I want to point out in the self-service, I'm a little concerned that policy change, it's coming, we have 2 markets, and it takes a big broker to get people in the room. We can't seem to get everybody else, I've been saying it for 8 years, but a big broker mysteriously get everybody in the room. So we got to figure a better way to get more people at the table to do it. Secondly, Guidewire is awesome. I'm excited. We have 19 people using the same platform, and it's kind of going down the CZO net route that everybody's working together, so hopefully no politics stop that like the last time because certain companies try and one-up everybody. So hopefully that doesn't happen. I don't think it will. But I think it's important that, I don't know if 3 to 5 years to get policy change working is sufficient. It's a little slow. Like we just talked about, Simon mentioned earlier in our panel that the young people are going elsewhere. Well, if we can't self-service our clients in the BMS, there's no way we can map that out on our portals and our mobile apps at all. So that's a huge problem, and our timelines, we're being held back with 3 to 5 years. I think we need to take a look at how we can do that faster. We need to live in dog years. 1 year equals 7 years. And we need to start having that mentality because, as I showed, there's a bunch of disruptors ready to eat their lunch, and our client doesn't care. They don't want to hear excuses. Oh, I'm not ready yet. Well, we're working on it. Well, by the time you're working on it, somebody else got it fixed, and these new people are starting up. So we need to have a little more sense of urgency. I don't think our industry has the urgency and is moving as fast as we could, and I think there's ways of, we need some catalysts to move them up. And I realize all the limitations, but just a couple points.
Yep.
Jeff, I agree. I just want to say that's the elephant in the room. The 5-year piece on Guidewire is a big problem. I think that's why you're not getting the questions, because we're sitting here going, we've got to wait 5 more years to find efficiency in our system, in the broker network. That's what we're saying. So I think we need to look, we got a lot of great heads in the room, and we got to start thinking about what we can change in the next 5 years. And it's not just simple ease of business, it's some transformational shift, like no policy change. Your policy includes all policy changes this year. Something big.
Oh, I like that. Caroline's smiling. Any comments? Questions? No? Sarah? No? Is that an option, carriers? That you buy, you pay a premium for 12 months, and whatever happens in that 12 months, you have coverage, and then you pay a premium for the next 12 months. You don't report anything to your broker or carrier for that 12-month period.
So everybody buys a minimum policy and something.
Oh my goodness. You're all smiling, but nobody's saying a word. Simon?
I'll take it. I like the provocation.
Yeah.
I think, I said it in the previous panel, Jeff and I were together, but, if we don't collaborate and try to change the rules, it's tough in Ontario with the regulation we're stuck in on the automotive side of things. I mean, we cannot play, we need to offer whatever is filed, so if there are some changes, we need to apply the rate change there.
Or we change the filing.
Yeah, and again, so like the provocation, I'll certainly have a little chat with my friend actuaries on the way back and see how they feel about the question.
So I'm kind of thinking like probably Jeff more than Steve is, but a 3 to 5 year project. Is there a way to break that project down so there are smaller deliverables sooner, so that there can be some efficiencies as we make our way to the end of the project? Is that a possibility?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things we're working on, and it's our preoccupation for the last year. So it's we know that since we've done the roadmap, and so the deliverable, we've tried to see how we can break the deliverable in such a way that will bring value through the years. This year we want to make all policies available online. There'll be multiple versions. In UK, they are using what they call My Aviva. So it's in certain market there are some co-branded approach. Other, it will be strictly API, like Jeff mentioned. So we're working on that today, and as we speak, and we have people in my team meeting up with brokers, trying to get their feedback, make sure that we'll be aligned, and so we're not working in silo, pretend that we know what's the right thing for the markets. We're going out there and seeing how we can work it out together, what should be the priorities, and so far, I mean, just after a couple of days, the feedback we've got is, could you help us lower the numbers of calls on billing question, so automate the payment, claims follow-up, claim status. So a lot of calls that the brokers that we've met so far, it's only a small, simple, but again, this is the feedback that we're getting. So trying to prioritize the tasks that are a pain point for them, adding no value, and prevailing them to focus more on the sales part of things to grow their business. So I think, you know, it's not easy to break a large program into smaller deliverables, but we're committed to it.
So I have a question for Sam. Sorry, Sam's he comes from many other different industries, all in IT. And he's with bullfroginsurance.com. And so you're newer to our industry, and you're hearing the discussion here today. You're hearing frustration from brokers. You're hearing carriers trying to make steps in the right direction. You have enough experience in other industries that have remade themselves, re-engineered themselves. What do you say to us?
Yeah, I don't necessarily have any of the solutions for sure, but I just look at this and go, you just got to whiteboard this thing. A few minutes ago we were talking about is a single tool possibility. Our customers are looking at a website that has a back end that is also our broker management system, that is also our CRM system, that is also the source of all of our data and analytics, and it's one system. But it was built over the course of close to 2 years, and you know, we fundamentally said that's what we want to do. You know, all bets are off. We ran into all sorts of friction, and I can't even tell you about all the times that we thought it might be endless. But we really stuck to it, and you know, we've been around for a little over a year now, and everybody that visits us just is blown away by the simplicity.
But what can we learn? Like, what can we expand across our distribution channel to reinvent ourselves?
Well, I think you're looking at, I mean, how can I put it? I've seen projects where people go, you know, I'm going to put in a system, as an example, SAP, and I've been on a project where it's the 7th implementation of SAP, but they've never changed their process. And these are big, huge household name companies, and if you're not going to fundamentally break it down and do a complete reboot, you'll be having the same conversation next year. I don't mean to be, you know, gloomy about it, but we've got a 5-year project ahead of us here.
Yeah, Bryan. Thanks, Sam.
Not to pry, but I don't know if you can answer this question. You get the information through your website from the customer. How do you get that to the carrier? Is that a seamless end-to-end transaction?
It's called multi-reporting. There's a hybrid of integration there. There's a hybrid of integration there, and it's not on our end. We were actually ready to go before launch. A couple of the carriers said we're ready as well, and then they had to hold off because the other competing carriers, if you will, were ready to launch. So we're getting there, and I think part of the solutions that are coming around with the likes of Aviva, with the likes of Northbridge, are going to serve very well in that regard. But no. Yeah.
I just want to say that the front end looks slick, and of course it does, but a carrier can make a front end look slick too, and then it becomes Bel Air, right?
Yeah.
There's still the systems in the middle that
we've
are
replicated
not
the rating
being
logic.
shown.
Yeah,
So.
we've taken their rating logic and it's on our platform.
So that's what, we're CSSI. That's what they do for their rating. That's what you do your rating. That's why you do your ratings as well.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, I actually kind of thought maybe you could solve this whole problem for us, but that's not happening today. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, other questions? Dennis, what would you like to ask? We've got two farm mutuals up here, we've got Aviva up here, we've got Applied who interacts with the carrier end of things.
One of the things, I don't know how you put me on the spot.
You know what, you're a broker, I'm supposed to do that.
I think this whole collaboration thing is, I mean, probably just talking more about what people have already spoke about, but the collaboration thing, we've got to get going on it. To echo Jeff Roy's comments about, 5 years out, and Steve's comment about a solution in the meantime, I think we really need to deal with those things. We've got competition that's breathing down our necks, and we really don't have any answers. It's a long-term, everything's pushed out. So I'd like to see some action a lot sooner. Sorry, that's not the question.
I guess the question is, how could we see action much sooner? Yes, yes. Okay, so, don't mean to be walking all over the room, sorry Matt, but John, you teach e-commerce. And, right, so we're not talking just about e-commerce, we're talking about making data available in a much easier way than we are today. So do you have any insight for us, or any questions for these guys that will help us get to what we need to hear?
Only that often a lot of small steps can be taken a lot easier than making a large step. So even when we talk about innovation, and I'm sure I was very interested, Simon, to hear your description of your innovation activities there. But we talk about incremental innovation, evolutionary innovation, and then disruptive innovation. And a lot of people focus on disruptive innovation, thinking you've got to make the big change in order to have a big impact. But statistically, a lot of small changes add up to a lot of impact, right? So we would say that, as you said, where's there friction? Do whatever small thing can be done to address the friction, and overall you're constantly moving forward.
So can that thought, is that kind of what you're talking about, Simon, when you're talking about trying to make steps to get sooner than 5 years for the full implementation?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a program we call system thinking, and it's really to review. I mean, every 5 years there's another buzzword or another way to describe it, but we are reviewing current processes in place, trying to improve that. And it's so we understand that we have the system we have that for 2-3 years in front of us. So I'm fully with you. So there are improvements being done on a daily basis on small things that can have a huge difference. We've made big progress on the claim side, trying to speed up the claim resolution. It's part of our, careful here, there's some competitors in the room, but we really want to do a breakthrough on the claim management side, to issue a settlement a few minutes after the claims has been settled. That's the target that we set to ourselves, and we already have that piece. Like that portion of Guidewire is being implemented on both sides, on personal line and commercial line. So there are absolutely breakthrough that we can deliver right now on this part of the business, and there are other that we are trying not trying, but that we'll deliver through the years. So it's a philosophy. So it's not just about the disruption innovation. It's about trying to tackle real problems that are the biggest pain point and see how we can remove them from the process. That's part of it.
Okay, so you've heard from the people I picked on. So I'm giving each of you a magic wand. You get to satisfy one wish, do one thing with your magic wand. It's pretty short-term in nature. It's not a 5-year magic wand. It expires. So what are you doing, Bryan? Okay, Marion, since you look so cute sitting there hanging your head. Marion, what do you do with your magic wand, girl?
Well, I've already said the single sign-on piece of it. So I'd be looking at an environment that supports single sign-on, supports standards. I agree we have to get some standards that we're all speaking the same language, because this is where we keep breaking down, and web services, so that we have easy and cost-effective integration between the carriers and the BMSs and the CMSs.
Okay. Okay. Caroline? Yours is red, by the way, your magic wand. It's
Is
red.
it red? Yeah. Well, they've really put me on the spot. I tend to be a bit of a dreamer, right? So, and I have this, dreamland that I live in where we're all working together collaboratively. And I think that's really where we need to go. I'm a big fan of disruptive technological change. Unfortunately, in our world, it would be too destabilizing for us as an industry to function if there was that kind of significant disruptive technology emerging. Somebody mentioned iterative change. And, there's the old expression, how do you eat an elephant? And it's bit by bit by bit. And, when you look at the Japanese industrial complex where they started to raise the level and quality of their products simply by permitting a concept called Kaizen, which was iterative change, tiny little changes that the industry and the individuals in the workforce were allowed to make, and that there was a process implemented to permit that. So I don't think there's anything to stop us from doing that as an industry. We're kind of there. We're getting there. The last couple of years in this industry has been great fun, right? Lots of interesting stuff. And I think that there's more fun to be had if we can keep our heads together and understand that it's not going to be perfect. And let's not beat ourselves up so much about it not being perfect. We're still moving things forward incrementally.
Are you guys seeing that we're moving things forward? Yes? Okay. Simon, what's your magic wand doing?
Real time.
Yay!
It's for me that's the biggest thing, and that was my hope 7 years. Seven years ago, and still is today. So I'm a dreamer, and maybe I'm too candid, but I think real time rely on data. I mean, now we do have Opta was with us on the panel earlier. CGI can provide data. We have a lot of data. You do have data on your side. We do have data on our side. How can we leverage this to truly deliver an amazing customer experience? And for me, this is what it is. And people are asking to do that real time. So it's no longer about doing batch processing of data, as we used to do when I was in university 20 years ago. I started really young. But it's real time. 5 years ago, your check is in the mail was okay. Now it's like, do me an e-transfer. Customers are not doing a benchmark with us saying, oh, you're great in insurance. This is like, compared to Amazon or compared to this and that, that's not great at all. So the benchmark is not our industry, it's the rest of the experience they have. So I really wish that I had that magic stick to say, we can deliver real-time decisioning, leveraging data that is available out there. And if I had a second wish, I would like to give it a shot. Yeah, well, I tried.
Okay.
Well, I still have that magic.
Okay.
I'll lend you my red one.
No, but the cost of data in Canada is to the roof. For a carrier like us, when we are paying for MDR Auto Plus, it's in the range of $15 per transaction. So at the quoting side, it's really, really hard to justify the economic. So I would really like to see those costs being more democratized, and that way it will be in the benefit of every one of us, and first of all for the customer, because it would be asked less question in the quoting process.
Or we could actually go back to when I used to be an underwriter and you had criteria, and only if those criteria were met did you order investigation instead of every single piece of business. So, yeah. So, magic wand.
Very similar, actually. I'll go with the real time, but more specifically the real time rating.
Rating, yeah.
And I like to follow the trends and things that are going on elsewhere, and you see innovations coming out of the U.S. and overseas, where you have, I think it's Trove is one that just came out in the U.S., where it's just an app on your phone. You slide over for individual product insurance. So you have an expensive road bike, but you don't ride it all the time. So you're going out for a ride, you have insurance on. When you come home, insurance off. It goes back in your shed. Without real-time rating and things like that, that can't happen. And if I had a second one, it'd be
Go ahead.
He got a second one.
I started trying to. Yeah, but Mary can give you hers.
Regulations, the regulators ease up on that a little bit and make the ability to make changes faster would certainly help.
And what do you do with your magic wand?
Well, aside from winning the lottery and retiring, you know, leaving the industry altogether. In all seriousness, standards that everybody follows so that when we're introducing overland water, everyone does it with the same code so that when my brokers are looking at their desks, tops, they can understand what each one of them is doing. You know, simple. It was simple, and we can't.
It should have been simple.
Oh, yeah.
You want a magic wand too? You can have one.
So, excuse me. I'd just like to suggest something that might sound different. Maybe when the standards are created, it's like speaking different languages, right? Everybody talks their own language. Every carrier has their own set of fields and their own set of codes. And it's difficult to find a common ground. Maybe if the standard was fluid in time, so as opposed to saying, okay, this is a standard, right? As opposed to doing that, we just say, okay, here is some kind of a website which has a database of all the fields, of all the codes, of all the carriers. If you need to add a new field, you just say, okay, here is my field, here's my factor, here's how it's rated. And the next person after you, they'll search the database and say, okay, is it there? Maybe I don't need to add it. So this would allow the standard to not be solid. It would develop with time.
Okay. And I actually think that part of the problem is we do have standards, but we don't have, CSIO has no teeth to police them. So the standards exist, but they don't have to be used. That's, pardon?
You need to come to US Army.
Well, yeah. The US Army, yeah. Rick, magic wand, real quick.
Well, real-time policy change. The other thing is I'd like the insurance companies not to think of their systems as competitive advantage. The competitive advantage is innovative products and claim service. Standards should be standard across the industry. Systems to move data back and forth should be, there should be no politics about that. My magic wand would be to get the politics out of it and just everybody adhere to the standards. Systems should not be competitive advantages. Our business of insurance should be the competitive advantage.
Well, there we go. So, any last comments? Panelists? We got the sign. She actually ripped it up, so she's very, very serious at the moment.
She's very strict. She was waving the 5-minute sign.
And I was trying to ignore her, actually. It didn't work very well. Okay, so these guys withstood our battery of questions well, I think. Thank you very much for devoting your time today. Thank you.